Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to try and get a handle on the National Intelligence Agency of Thailand, the NIA.
Yeah, it's a key player. We've looked through quite a few documents, articles, different sources, really, to understand its background, how it's set up, and, well, what it does.
Exactly. And our mission, really, is to unpack all that information from the sources and give you a clearer picture of the NIA and where it fits into Thailand's whole intelligence setup.
And it's definitely a complex picture, as you said. The NIA is, at its core, the main civilian intelligence and security agency for the Thai government. That's its basic function.
Right, and the sources place it directly within the office of the Prime Minister. Uh, Headquarters are in Bangkok, Command
Right.
Palace.
And they have quite a striking motto mentioned in the materials: determination, devotion, discipline, sacrificed, and dedicated to the nation and its people.
That's quite something.
Yeah.
The sources also gave some figures, didn't they? Like the budget.
They did. For the fiscal year 2019, the budget was listed at 717.8 million better. And at the time the sources were published, the minister responsible was the Prime Minister, Pitontarn Shinawatra, and the agency head, the director, was Tanat Swananon.
Right. So that gives us a kind of current snapshot based on those sources. But let's dip into the history a bit. How did it actually start? It wasn't always the NIA, was it?
No, not at all. It traces back to January 1st, 1954. That's when it was formed.
1954. And what was it called then?
It started as the Department of Administrative Intelligence, and it was under the Council of Ministers back then.
Department of Administrative Intelligence.
And, one really interesting detail from the sources about that early time is the first Director General,
Who's that?
Pheo Shrinand. Now, what's significant is that he was also the Director General of the Royal Police Department at the very same time.
Huh. So right from the beginning, you see this sort of connection, maybe even an overlap with police structures. That's interesting.
It definitely suggests a close initial tie, yeah.
Yeah.
But that name didn't stick around forever. There were changes.
Right. The sources mentioned renamings.
Yes, exactly. Under Sarat Thanarat, the leader at the time, it got renamed. On December 2nd, 1959, it became the Department of Central Intelligence.
Okay. Department of Central Intelligence. Maybe hinting at a broader role.
Possibly, yeah. Then another change later on, under Prem Tinsalananda, August 30th, 1985, that's when it got its current name, the National Intelligence Agency.
The NIA. 1985, and the sources confirmed that's also when it started reporting directly to the Prime Minister's office, which is where it still sits today.
Yes, and that 1985 date is really pivotal for another reason. That's when the National Intelligence Act, BE 2528, came into effect.
BE 2528, that's the Buddhist era year corresponding to 1985, right?
Correct, and that act is what officially designated the NIA as the lead intelligence agency in Thailand.
Ah, okay. So on paper, legally speaking, since 85, the NIA is meant to be the main coordinating body, the top dog, essentially.
That was certainly the legislative intent, but, and this is a big but highlighted in the sources, the reality was quite different. Even as late as 2016, things were complicated.
How so?
Well, the sources point out that you had about 7 major Thai intelligence agencies, and they were mostly operating independently, kind of in their own silos.
7. Even with the NIA legally designated as the lead, which agencies are we talking about?
So you had the NIA itself, naturally, then Army intelligence, Navy intelligence, Air Force intelligence, the military branches,
Right.
plus the Armed Forces Security Center, the Special Branch Bureau of the Police, and the Internal Security Operations Command, ISAC.
Okay, wow. That's quite a few major players. Let's just pause on that. The military ones are somewhat clear, but Special Branch and ISAC, what are their typical domains based on the context?
Generally, yes, Special Branch often deals with internal security threats, political intelligence, that sort of thing. ISAC is, well, it's a very influential body. It's often involved in counterinsurgency, internal security, sometimes development projects. Quite a broad mandate.
I see. So a real mix of focuses: external military, internal political, broad internal security. And the sources say they were all largely doing their own thing. That sounds like a recipe for inefficiency at best.
Absolutely. Coordination is key in intelligence, and the sources suggest it was lacking. You risk missing things, duplicating efforts, maybe even working at cross purposes sometimes.
And it wasn't just those 7, was it? The problem was maybe even bigger.
It seems so. By 2017, the sources talk about a growing awareness of this fragmentation, and there were plans being discussed to try and coordinate, get this, 27 separate Thai agencies involved in intelligence or security work.
27. Okay, that really paints a picture of just how dispersed the landscape was. So faced with that reality, what was the next big step legally?
That takes us to 2019. A new law was passed. The National Intelligence Act, BE 2562, again 2562, corresponding to 2019.
And what did this new act do?
Its major move was establishing something called the National Intelligence Coordination Center, or NICC,
Mhm.
specifically designed to tackle this coordination problem.
The NICC. Okay, and the sources were clear about where this NICC was placed organizationally, right? It wasn't like a brand new, separate, overarching body.
That's the crucial detail. No, the NICC was set up within the National Intelligence Agency itself.
Inside the NIA.
Correct. Its specific job, according to the Act and the sources, is to be the central point for coordinating intelligence and counterintelligence activities, not just among the different intelligence agencies, but also with other relevant government departments and public authorities.
Okay, let me make sure I've got this. NIA is named the lead agency back in '85. Reality check shows lots of agencies acting independently. So in 2019, they create a specific coordination center, the NICC, but they put it inside the NIA to try and make that coordination
But
happen.
that's the sequence the sources lay out, yes. It's effectively an attempt to empower the NIA to fulfill that lead role more practically by giving it a dedicated internal mechanism for coordination.
So when you look at this whole journey, what does it really tell you, the listener? We see the NIA starting as one department, changing names, getting designated as the lead agency, but then facing this persistent challenge of fragmentation. And the latest step is creating this coordination hub within the NIA itself.
It really highlights the ongoing effort within the Thai government to figure out how to best manage a very complex and historically quite siloed intelligence community. It shows the legal framework evolving to try and shape or perhaps catch up with the operational reality on the ground.
It's a story of structure, law, and the practical challenges of making different powerful bodies work together effectively.
Precisely. It's about trying to improve that flow of information and make the whole system more coherent.
So just to quickly recap the key points from the sources. Founded in 1954 as the Department of Administrative Intelligence. Renamed a couple of times, becoming the NIA in 1985 and designated the lead agency by law. But reality showed many agencies operating independently. So the big move in 2019 was creating the National Intelligence Coordination Center, the NICC, inside the NIA, tasked specifically with improving coordination across this spread-out community.
Which leaves us with a rather interesting question to ponder, something for you to think about. Given that history of powerful, independent agencies used to operating in their own lanes, how effective might a coordination center placed within one of those agencies, even the lead one, actually be? Does putting the coordinator inside the NIA encourage more buy-in from agencies like Army Intelligence or ISOS? Or might it be perceived differently than, say, a completely separate, perhaps more neutral coordinating body standing above them all? It really gets into the nitty-gritty of interagency politics and trust, doesn't it?
That's a fascinating point, how the structure itself impacts the willingness to share and collaborate. Definitely something to consider about the future effectiveness of intelligence coordination in Thailand.